That's about it.
Okay, well, we could have more time because we could talk about these.
Well, I was told, I thought we could be here until 10 o'clock, and I was told by our bus.
Right,
I mean,
right.
And, yeah,
And
like I said, that I just thought I'd tell them about that. We need to get a marker on the highway about that ditch in Cow Gully, because every other town you go to, they got all their markers on all their little creeks,
Fourth,
you know?
1960.
Like going
Oh,
to,
yeah, they sure do. Sure
you
do.
know, like
They sure
going
do.
to San Antonio, I
Right,
said,
right.
one of the little creeks' name is Woman
1860.
Hollering Creek.
Oh,
Have you ever seen that one?
When she
Anyway,
died
I
on
said, we
December
get
1st,
that
I'm
Cow
on
Gully.
Oh, you know, at one time, women, you know, didn't have very many privileges.
No,
We were like
my
farmers.
grandfather was.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
men could do whatever.
Yeah.
Some was
He
still
was
fine.
72 when he,
Thank God.
Yeah.
in
We got life.
Hannibal.
Oh, goodness.
Missouri.
Now, did she say what other group was coming?
Yeah.
Are there some more coming already?
I don't know.
I think
Maybe I'll
it's-
get better at it. Maybe I'll get better at it.
Oh, you did very well. Everybody did very well.
These are those letters of recommendation this woman applied in 1906. She, if there should be a vacancy in the primary department of your school, I am an applicant for the position. I hold a second grade state certificate and have had 3 years experience in teaching. I also send you copies of my recommendations, hoping that my application will receive due consideration. I remain yours respectfully, Miss Evelyn Michaud. And then here's some letters of recommendation from Louise, Texas. You know where that is? On the way to San Antonio.
I've heard of Louise,
We got
Texas.
Edna and Louise and
Yeah.
Alice and.
This is to certify that Miss Evelyn Michaud taught in this primary department in our school last season, and we were pleased with her. She is a perfect learner, and we cheerfully recommend her to anyone who wants
The original
in
school,
want of a teacher.
the slam that's
Another one from Van Black.
across the street
Right.
from where that buildings are down there.
Right. Now, but just what did I want to do when I started, was this one room, it was eight, there's an eight building, and it went all the way back. And that way, I went to school, where there was grades 1 through 7 in that one. Then she started while I was there.
Now, when I
Now, this is the quote, I got my first job in Hitchcock.
Well, these three ladies over here are going to tell you a little bit about Hitchcock history. That's things that happened right here in Hitchcock. And we're going to show you some pictures, and we're going to talk just a little bit about Hitchcock history. And I'm going to start with the lady right there. Her name is Miss Haynes, and she taught in the Hitchcock schools for 37 years. And she was a member of the very first Hitchcock Black Band. She moved to Hitchcock. So I'm going to give her maybe 5 minutes, and we're going to see what we can do.
I would be led. Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning. How are you? Good. What grade are you? Good. And what's the name of your school? Yes, Stewart Elementary. Elementary. Okay, then I get it right. All right, we're very happy to have you here with us this morning, and we're going to tell you a little bit about the history of Hitchcock. All right, first of all, I was a teacher here at Hitchcock many years ago, and my name is Miss Haynes, and I taught grade for a long time. Before I came, I went to the high school level. And I probably taught some of your relatives when they were little. And when I was going to school, I had a very, very good teacher. And her name was Mrs. Crosby. Now, there's a school here in Hitchcock named for Mrs. Crosby. Does anyone know the name of that school? What is it?
Crosby Middle School.
Right. Well, we want to show you, this is the picture of that lady that taught me when I was little, just like you. And she was a good, good teacher. She made you keep quiet. And she could even just look at you. And you would get quiet. She didn't need to paddle. And I know you all don't either, do you? You don't need to paddle. You can be quiet too. So that's the way Miss Crosby was. But she was very, very good. She taught us how to read, to write. How many of you know how to read and write? Good, good. Well, that's the way Miss Crosby was. And so they named the school that Crosby School. A Crosby Elementary or Crosby, what is it, junior high?
Middle school.
All right, that's the one. All right, so that is the picture of the lady, Lorraine Crosby, Mrs. Lorraine Crosby, from whom that school is named. So you can tell your parents that you saw the lady that was responsible for the name of the school when you get home. Here, I want you to share that with them. Okay. Now, when, many, many years ago, I went to school, it was only one room. And this one room was this part of the picture right here. It was a little A-roof type building, and there were grades 1st through 7th grade in that one room. But anyway, Miss Crosby got to everybody in that room. Now, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my family. Now, my grandfather, he was a cattleman or a cowboy or whatever. And his name was Mr. Thomas Caldwell. Can you say that?
Mr. Thomas.
All right. Well, he was the first black man to move to Hitchcock, Texas, where we live. And that was in 1851. Long time, huh? Long, long time. Okay. Now, he married Sophia, my grandmother. And they had 14 children. And there were 7 boys and 7 girls. And my dad was one of the boys. So, this is my dad and my mom. And they moved in with my grandfather after my grandmother died. And so we were there with them. And we all went to school here in Hitchcock, just like you, as I said. So, from time to time, the family gets together. And we call this a family reunion. So, one time in 1992 or 91, we all got together from all over. And these are all relatives from that Caldwell family. And they came from, some of them came from Washington, D.C., some came from Arizona. There were people here that came from New York. We just had them all around. And they all were relatives of my grandfather and my grandmother. And we still get together from every now and then. And the way we tell each other apart, each family wears a t-shirt to the reunion. And on the t-shirt, you see the names of the 7 boys and the 7 girls. Now, I'm from the Van Caldwell family. Can anyone see Van on here?
Yeah.
You see it? Van. And I'm named from my dad. My name is Vanda, from my dad's name, Van. And we get together and we have just a lot of fun here in Hitchcock. And also, this family went to Galilee Baptist Church. You know where that is here in Hitchcock? All right. Well, Galilee Baptist Church received a marker that you see right in the front of it. Next time you pass down Fairwood Road. And we have the marker because our church congregation is more than 100 years old. So it's been there a long, long time. And as a teacher, I taught in the school system for 37 years. 37 years.
Oh, that's a good teacher.
And I taught Miss Brooks' daughter and Mr. and Mrs. Robinson's daughter. And then I taught a relative from the Chancellor family.
Okay.
Young lady.
Yes.
Yeah. What's her name, Marion?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Named after me.
Yeah, all right. So I've been around a long, long time here in Hitchcock. And did I leave out anything?
I think she got it all. Well, can we give Miss Vander Haynes a great hand?
Thank you. I enjoyed talking to you.
Now, the next one I want to introduce to you is Mrs. Joanne Robinson, and she's married to that man over there, Mr. Harry Robinson. And they've been married how many years? 44 years. 44 years. And they have 4 children, and both of them come from some of the original Hitchcock families. Probably Miss Joanne's is one of the oldest families. It was the Tackert family. And she's got about 5 minutes to tell you everything she can on the Tackert family.
Well, let's see, I'll just tell you that my family came from France in 1844 with Henry Castro, and later when y'all learn Texas history, you'll learn about him. He brought settlers over to settle different places in Texas. And my great-grandfather was one of their, was a little boy when they came. He was 8 years old. And they went to Castroville to settle, and they didn't have much luck out there. The Indians were causing them trouble, and the drought, they couldn't grow things, so they came back to Galveston and lived in the city until they grew up. And then my grandfather came to the mainland and settled on the bayou. They liked to settle on bayous because, or streams, because they could, go back and forth to the cities and get things they needed. With the streams, it was easier. And that's my great-grandfather and his wife, and they had 7 children. And my grandfather was their 4th child, and he got into the cattle business. And he had, I guess you'd say he was a rancher. And he married another, my grandmother was from another French family that had settled here, and their name was Giroux. Somebody may know where Giroux Street is over there off of 519. And so they were settled in that area on the bayou. And they had 10 children, 7 girls, and 3 boys. The boys were outnumbered in that family. My mother was the 5th child. And so my mother had 8 children. I'm one of them. We had 5 boys and 3 girls in my family. And so we have big families too. And my grandfather had lots of cattle all over, and he shipped them on the trains to other cities, other places. People bought them. He helped establish the schools, and he helped establish the Catholic Church, or helped it get established. And now I have some of my grandkids are going to Hitchcock School, but they're the fifth generation to be educated in Hitchcock from our family. So we probably have like 250 or more descendants of my great-grandfather just right here in Galveston County. So there's a lot of us. And you might know some of them, or you may even be kin to some of them. And, this is the first house, his first house my great-grandfather built when he came to the bio and got into the cattle business with an uncle of his wife.
See, they had no cars.
This is the house he lived in, which was right up here on the corner. All his children lived in there. Now it's the Deuce's Swap. I mean, this is where the house was.
Do y'all know where this is?
Yes.
Well, look what used to be here, this beautiful house. Isn't it sad that it's not here anymore? But that's what happens. Time changes things.
Sad to me, especially.
Time changes.
Let's see, and I don't, that first little house, you know where you pass on the highway, right my ranch, up here by the canal? That house was back in there, that's where the first house was. And I was gonna tell you, when he hired people to work for him, and you want me to tell you how much a cowboy made to work for, work with the cattle? Here's a little entry, he had a little book, he kept track of everything he spent, and got in and he paid Mr. Nelson Crosby, which was Mrs. Crosby's husband, for 4 days' work with his, he had to supply his horse. He paid him $10. He made $10 for working. So that averaged out about $2.50 a day, I guess. And then he sold, one time he sold 2,115 head of cattle for $35,955. That comes out to $17 a cow.
What are cattle cost now? We were talking about that. What would you sell a cow for these days, Mr. Rose? $500-$600. The times change. The one other thing I wanted Joanne to tell you was how much land, because they came so early. They got,
They had big,
they had lots
like a
of land.
league of land, and it was about 12,000 acres.
This is on Highway 6. Maybe some of you have passed by and seen that on 6. The place with the two flags, past El Sombrero. Okay, that's part of the original Tackard land. And I want her to tell you how far the land went.
Well, it started out at the Bay Shore, where the water is, and it probably went almost to Dickinson's bio.
So from here to
A lot of
Dickinson.
it.
So it would be almost all of Hitchcock and some of Dickinson. It would have been
Then
Highway
out
45, where you go to Houston, all that. Okay, well, I hate to keep rushing y'all. Now, we're going to talk about the Janzer family. And these are the folks that gave us food.
No, they sold it to you.
We sold it to you tonight.
I'm Ernestine Chanzer, and this is about my father-in-law, Mr. Luke Chanzer, who came from Austria in 1914. He and his wife had met on a train, and he was engaged to another lady, which his parents had picked out for him, which he didn't like. And so, by the time the trip was over, well, his wife had all the presents that he had bought for his original fiancée. And they were married shortly after that, and they came to Galveston. And they had to stay in a quarantine station until the doctor said that it was okay for them to leave, so they knew that they were healthy. That is what is called Seawolf Park. Now, if any of you have ever been down there fishing or gone to the beach or something, you might know where that is. Okay, and so they went from there to Richmond, Texas, And Mr. Chandler worked on the Santa Fe Railroad. He did not know any English at all at that time. He knew 4 foreign languages, but no English. And he soon learned English. So he was sent